Hey everybody, Mark here for the Highways and Hedges Monday School class. Thank you so much for our part two in our Soul Winning series. Our Soul Winning series on Wednesdays. This is going to go all the way up until Christmas Eve. So I hope you are enjoying the series. As we talked about last week, step one in the Soul Winning series is, of course, helping them to get lost so that then they can be found. They have to make sure, or our role as a soul winner, of course, to make sure we're reading our Bible, we're praying, and as we're talking to someone, we have to make sure that they're not trusting in anything but Jesus Christ. They cannot trust in themselves or their own good works or their giving or their good person or their church attendance or their baptism. None of those things mean anything when it comes to eternity. And so, of course, now once they're lost, now what's the next step? What is step two? And here we're going to go to Romans 6:23a. That means we're only going to read the top part of Romans 6:23. We'll get to part B here in step four. But for right now, for step two, once they know that they cannot save themselves, now what we must lay out for them is we have to realize that that sin that we deal with every day, that sin has a price that has to be paid. And look at Romans 6:23a. It says, for the wages, that means the payment of sin, is death. So therefore, what we're trying to explain to them is that everything has a payment. Every choice has a consequence, whether it be a good consequence or a bad consequence. Well, the payment or the consequence of sin in every situation in all of humanity is death. Is death. And so now what we're trying to do here in step two is get them to understand it's appointed man wants to die, so death is inevitable. So now where is your soul going to live for eternity? The choices are either heaven or hell. There is no in between. That is the only two choices. So, getting them to understand that, of course, they're sinners, and now that sin has a wage that has to be paid. And of course, that wage is death. And then I take them typically over to Revelation chapter 20, verses 14 and 15. Revelation 20, 14 and 15. And here, this talks about the second death. Of course, we all have the first death. That is, of course, when our physical bodies die. But then there's a second death, meaning where will your soul spend eternity once Christ comes back? And it says here, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. So death and hell, this is the second death. These are talking about folks that aren't saved. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. And so here we see a clear delineation of you have the book of life, which we will get to, and you have those not found in the book of life. Those not found written in the book of life, those folks are cast into hellfire damnation by Revelation 20, 14, and 15. And if it seems like you're delivering a lot of bad news in step one and step two, that's because you are. You are. It's a lot of bad news up front. But of course, that allows for the good news. Of course, the gospel means good news. The good news will be coming here in step three and step four. But once they realize they're a sinner and they cannot save themselves, now they have to realize that sin has a payment. That payment is death. Where is that death going to be for eternity? Is it going to be in heaven or is it going to be in hell? So you must make that clear delineation that there are only two options. You can spend eternity with in heaven with God, because there's none righteous, no, not one. We read that last week. Or you can be cast into the lake of fire. Death and hell were cast in Revelation 20, 14, and 15. And so here, You know what? You want to make sure that they understand that that sin has a price that has to be paid, and there's only two destinations. Once they realize they are a sinner, they cannot save themselves. Now you're getting them to the point where, okay, I can't do this. So now it's a choice between heaven and hell. And next week, we're going to start to deliver a little more good news as to as to who, not where, but who delivered that salvation for them. And of course, we already know it's Jesus Christ. So I pray that this lesson is helping you. Uh, Again, read over Romans 3:10, Romans 3:23. Those were last week. This week, I want you to read over Romans 6:23a and Revelation 20:14 and 15. These small steps that you're going to take, that you're going to continue to practice, will help God use you better and could change someone's eternity. There's no better gift. Praise God. I hope you all are having a great week. Till we talk again.